Myth number two is that writers only start writing when they have it figured out, especially good writers. We tend to assume that like a good writer just sort of drafts in their head. So there's no point in sitting down to write until you know exactly what you're going to say, right? Like I need, and sometimes I do that. I used to do that when I was in grad school all the time, where I would, and this was a decade or so ago, but I would really have to I would have to know exactly how it was going to turn out in my head and have everything really planned out. So I would never start the paper. So this is something I know I struggle with. And I know I've had a lot of students struggle with the same thing, where they feel like if you're a good writer, you should just sit down and be able to do it. Like it's all clear in your head before you sit down. But one of the things that I have learned is true is that sometimes going through the process of writing is how you figure out what you want to say. Like you almost have to see it on the paper and hear it before you can really assess it and add on to it. And it doesn't really work like that. I don't know anyone who is a writer who just writes, and I'm not saying like a good enough draft for class. I'm talking about like writers who publish never just write things and then they're done. There's always multiple drafts. My graduate work has maybe 15 to 20 drafts, and a short story that I have that's actually in an anthology that's an award-winning short story was rejected like 9 times before it was accepted, and it has a lot of drafts. And it has like alternate endings for every single version, and that happens because it's a process. And I guess that kind of goes along with the perfect first drafts myth, that like if you're a good writer, you just make amazing first drafts. And again, I don't mean good enough drafts. I mean that like good writers just, magic happens when they sit down in front of the computer or the paper. And that's what makes them good writers, the fact that they don't have to try very hard. If you Google writing quotes, you will find that a lot of authors, a lot of their quotes about writing are about how much it sucks and how difficult it is, even for good writers. One of my favorite ones is that, I hate writing, but I love to have written. I love the idea I get at the beginning and the feeling of being done and reading it back and being like, that's it, that's how I wanted it to sound. But the process of getting from A to B is sometimes pretty gut-wrenching and horrifying.